Hello, all of my fellow network engineers out there on the internet. Welcome to our vlog series, Demystifying Ansible for ACI, where we go over topics that involve using Ansible to get things done on your ACI fabric. My name is James Kaiser, and I'll be your host for the duration of this series. Today, we're going to be going over password-based authentication for ACI using the vars prompt module in Ansible. Now, I want to preface this by saying that this isn't the best way to authenticate with your APIC using Ansible for a couple of reasons. The first reason being that any APIC running 3.1 or later has an anti-DOS feature that could throttle your play or causing it to fail or slow down. Using the built-in modules, even the ACI REST module, each time you run that task, it requires authentication. If you want to loop over that task, every loop is going to require authentication. All of that authentication happening so quickly, the APIC thinks it's under attack and will throttle the session since you're trying to brute force the password or something. So it'll slow down, possibly kill your play, and that's not cool. The other reason is that the vars prompt module requires someone to be behind the wheel, requires user input. You can get around that with an expect script or something, but why, right? You wouldn't use the vars prompt module at that point. You might want this playbook to be run from a cron job. You might want this playbook to be run from an event, like executed based on an event. And in those cases, I'd say look at Ansible Vault. Don't use the vars prompt module. The vars prompt module is really, like I said, mainly for user input before you want to kick off some automation task. So with that, let's get in. If you guys are okay with that, let's get into it. And I'm logged into my APIC here. I'm under my Lumos tenant, and I'm already here. I wanted to show you bridge domains because that's the task that we're going to do. So there is no bridge domain configured at all right now. We're just sitting here. No bridge domains. Minimize that. We have a couple files that we're going to deal with here, and I'll show you right here. We have a host and a password auth. The YAML file will be our play, and the host file is the inventory file that we're going to use to specify the IP address of our APIC. In the host file, you'll notice I have a group. It's called APIC, and it's surrounded by square brackets. That's the group header. Normally, you'd see a list of IP addresses or a list of fully qualified domain names underneath this group heading. You might even see some child objects under the group as well. Here, I have a variable called APIC IP surrounded by double braces and double brackets, because what will happen when we execute the play is I'm going to ask for the APIC IP, and that variable will get populated with a value based on the user input that I put in. So let's look at the password auth YAML file. The password auth YAML file, basic play. Right up at the top, we have our setup, which is host. And I don't know why this isn't in there, but I'll put our 3 dashes in there, specifying YAML. So, top of the play, we have hosts, and we're saying the hosts that we're going to be calling our APIC. These are the hosts in reference in our inventory file called hosts, which will be populated with an IP address that we put in. I also throw in the any errors fatal true command because I want this play to stop if there's any problems or errors. Real quick, though, to go back on the host with the APIC IP, once I type in an IP, that gets populated into an Ansible variable, like a built-in variable called inventory host name that will get used down in the task. So we could just reference inventory host name to reference the host that is in play at the time. This way we can loop over this task, and if we're doing this on a multitude of APICs, then it'll loop over it. Back at the top, though, we have our var section. And two things that I put right at the top there are the Ansible connection and the Python interpreter. These are going to tell Ansible how to interact with the play. Connection local says we're going to run this stuff locally. And the Python interpreter says that we're going to force this to Python 3 because that's what we have specified. So even if you have Python 2 installed on your machine, and that is default, if you have Python 3, which would be a prerequisite, which you should have now, it's 2020, it'll run that. Below that, I have a couple of variables that we just hard-coded in here, just for the sake of example purposes, just to show you how this is going to work. We throw the tenant name, the bridge domain, our status, and our VRF. And that's going to get populated once we run through the play. Now let's talk about the vars prompt section. This is a section where we grab the user input. We ask for user input, and the user inputs the data, and then we grab that. The name of the prompt is going to be the variable, which you can see right here, name, APIC IP. Our prompt, what we're going to display to the user is going to be, hey, enter APIC IP. I'm asking you, hey, type in the IP address of your APIC. Private no means that this data is not private and can be seen on the screen and in the log. I'll say that again. Private no means that this data can be seen on the screen and in the log. Because private yes, which you'll see down below under the password section, means that that data cannot be seen on the screen and will not be shown in the log. So it's a little security feature that we have built in. Under the user, when we ask for the username, we say, hey, what's the username? Enter your APIC username. I have a section here called default. Default is admin. So that means that if I don't want to type in anything, if I'm prompted with this data and I just hit enter, if I don't type in anything, it's going to auto-populate this variable with the key, with the value admin. And then unsafe yes means that we are allowing unsafe characters. What's an unsafe character? Unsafe character would be like an asterisk or a / or something. And this just lets Ansible know that, hey, we're going to be grabbing some crazy characters, possibly. Below that section is the task section. Scroll up a little bit. We're going to be adding a bridge domain. So this is an ACI REST module that we're going to try to add a bridge domain with. In the ACI REST module, we have our host, which I explained before, is going to be referencing inventory host name, whatever APIC we're using at the time. We're using password-based authentication. So here's our username and our password section. And as you can see, I'm calling the variables user and pass, which were entered up above in the vars prompt section, user and pass. So whatever we typed in for user and whatever we typed in for password will be auto-filled here. Skipping down to the content, this is the JSON payload. All the other stuff, use SSL, validate search, that just helps. That's just basically telling it to use HTTPS and don't validate the cert because we're using a self-signed cert. And our path is the path in the uni that we're going to be sending this to. Method is post. It's just saying we're posting this. And the content, that's the payload that we're posting to the path. In there, we are calling up the variables from above that are going to help us add this bridge domain. So some of the things we need for the FVBD attribute DN is the tenant name and the bridge domain. So in order to complete that DN, we need both that information. We also need the bridge domain name and the status, which we're going to be created and modified. We also, if we want to assign this to a VRF. So we have our RSCTX, the FVRSCTX. Attributes, basically CTX name. CTX context name is VRF. So we're going to assign this to that VRF. This bridge domain will be in that VRF. Okay, let's go ahead and get started running our play. We're going to use the -VVV option. So we're going to crank up some of the verbose level there. And that's going to allow us to see what's happening in the play. So we're going to run that by typing Ansible-playbook. We're going to use the -I option to specify our inventory file that we called hosts. And we're going to run passauth.yaml -VVV. When I enter this, it's going to ask me for some information, and then it's going to go create a bridge domain based on that information. So it's asking for my APIC IP. Since I put default admin as my username, I don't have to type in anything. Password, type in my password, and now it goes, gathers some facts, adds a bridge domain. Now I'm going to scroll up a little bit. This is a whole bunch of stuff here relevant to the bridge domain that it's trying to do. But really, here's our payload that we sent way down here, content, right? And this is what it's doing. It pushed tenant Lumos test. As you can see, it entered in that data for us, BD100. Again, this is what we did down here. on our playbook, and it added it to the JKVRF. It sent it to this host. This was our APIC that we were trying to do it. And as you can see, our password, value specified, and no log parameter. So it kept that secret from us. This is the path that we posted it to. And we use protocol HTTPS. And here's our username admin. And that's basically it. That's basically password-based authentication. Again, this is a small task, so it wouldn't matter. If you needed to loop over this about 100 times, you may or may not trigger that DOS feature, and it'll kill your playbook. Be sure to check out our next video, because in the next video I'm going to be talking about signature-based authentication, which will give you not only a performance boost, but you probably won't be triggering that anti-DOS feature. And yeah, the performance boost is worth it. It's about a 20 to 30% performance boost using signature-based authentication. So be sure to tune in and check that out. Thanks for watching. Here, quick, I'm going to scroll up and show you. Here's our bridge domain. It was created. Yay, we made a bridge domain. Something cool I can show you too is I'll bring back up our editor. Now, I had commented as asked if I comment created, modified, and uncomment deleted. Now, when we run our play, 10.1.24, it is going to remove our bridge domain. And as you can see right here, gone. So that's a pretty neat little trick. If you want to add or remove objects from ACI, you can do it with Ansible.